The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
President Zurabishvili is a fantastic representative of Georgia, as we have seen over the last month. She attended last year's summit where all the countries made certain commitments, and this summit is the follow-up of these commitments, said Kelly Degnan, U.S. Ambassador to Georgia. The U.S. Ambassador was asked about President Joe Biden's co-hosted second summit for democracy, which Georgian President Salome Zurabishvili would attend instead of the Prime Minister or any member of the parliament. According to the mayor of Tbilisi, Kakha Kaladze, he welcomes if the visa regime for Georgian citizens in Russia is cancelled and direct air traffic with Russia is restored. You know that everything was done unilaterally. Our country and our people were sanctioned, visas were introduced, direct flights were prohibited. If they make that decision, it's up to them to make it. If this decision is made, of course, we will welcome direct flights and visa-free travel for the citizens of our country, Kaladze said. Sakhaero-Navigatsiya Ltd. announced that when the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Germany landed at Tbilisi International Airport, the runway was free, but the pilot decided to fly on the second circuit. The German government plane with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Germany on board landed at the Tbilisi airport only on the second attempt, Spiegel reported. According to Spiegel, in the first attempt, the plane failed to land because another plane was blocking the runway. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elene, Kvanchilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to provide you with updates on business and economics week in our country. Early this week, the National Bank of Georgia, NBG, in a collaboration with Moody's and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRD, organized a workshop titled Emerging Covered Bond Markets. This workshop was designed to offer the attendees insights into the dynamics of the covered bond market, credit rating approach, pricing of the instrument, and other relevant practical aspects for issuers and investors. The workshop was opened with a speech from Mr. Nicholas Gagua, Vice Governor of the National Bank of Georgia. In his address, he highlighted the importance of the inception of covered bonds on the Georgian market, underscoring the NBG's unwavering commitment to driving capital market reforms. The development of a covered bond framework marks a new stage for the broad capital market reform initiated by the government of Georgia and the National Bank of Georgia, NBG reports. Apart from adding diversity and depth of the capital market, the key objective of the new covered bond framework is also to increase the access for commercial banks to diversified sources of funding. We hope that the product will improve access to long-term Georgian lari funding, enable fixed-to-term mortgage pricing in the medium term, enhance the efficiency of the monetary policy framework, and serve as a risk management tool, said Mr. Gagua. Attendees had the opportunity to receive valuable covered bond market insights from representatives of Moody's, the European Mortgage Federation, European Covered Bond Council, and EBRD. These experts shared their extensive experiences from Eastern Europe and international markets.
I'm Luca Bertolot. It's a great pleasure for me to be here in Georgia this morning. I'm the Secretary General of the European Covered Bond Council, and we are very glad to see this opportunity coming up here in Georgia. It's a great pleasure for us to be here in Tbilisi, in Georgia, and celebrate the covered bond legislation that has been approved by the Georgian Parliament. I think this is a big opportunity for Georgian citizens, and is keeping Georgia closer to the single market of the European Union. This is a massive pillar for capital markets, and will help Georgian citizens to get cheaper funding for their mortgages, fixed rate, and manage the potential crisis due to the geopolitical crisis in a better way. We are a few weeks from a massive financial crisis in the US, and we think that covered bonds can help this market to have a solid access to capital markets, improving duration for the banks, and help banks in managing asset liability mismatch, and be ready to have access to international investors in this market.
Hi, my name's Richard Kemish. I'm a consultant with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and it's a great pleasure to work on the covered bond law with all the counterparties here in Georgia. I think this law is something which is based on European precedent, has been phenomenally successful through the financial crisis and through recent years in providing stable funding for the banking system, and at the same time improving the access to mortgage funding for ordinary people being able to access the ability to buy their own homes. It's a financial instrument which, in this day and age, becomes more and more important with all of the threats to financial stability that we've seen recently, and I'm delighted that we now have, the banks in Georgia now have access to that to improve the basis for their funding.
The free trade agreement with the United Arab Emirates is reached. Georgian Deputy Economy Minister Gennady Arveladze said the agreement would open the UAE market and its 10 million consumers with high purchasing power to Georgian exporting companies. The agreement will cover trade in goods, rules of origin and procedures of origin, customs administration and trade facilitation, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, technical barriers to trade, trade protection measures, investment, trade in services, digital trade and other issues, Arveladze said. The state body announced that negotiations would be concluded before the signing of the deal at a later date. In 2022, Georgia exported USD 31 million worth of goods to the UAE. Among them, cars are in the first place with USD 11 million, carpets are in second place with USD 2 million, and alcoholic beverages are in third place with USD 1.9 million. As for imports, its volume amounts to USD 282 million, of which the first place was mobile phones with USD 155 million, the second place was tobacco products with USD 20 million, and the third place was computers with USD 12 million.
What we've been seeing for almost 8-9 years of active relation between UAE and Georgia, which is increasing from both investments and trade. We are very pleased to be here. We have a very big delegations and high distinguished delegates from the private sector and also from the government sector. The head of delegation is His Excellency Dr. Thani Zioudi, the Minister of State for Trade and Investment. So we are coming with a big delegation with an objective to first of all send a very strong message to the world and to Georgia business community that we are serious, we are committed to the economy of Georgia. UAE is an excellent partner to partner with. We operate in more than 80 countries. Our investments are spread all over the globe. And we see there are opportunities in Georgia. The opportunities can be categorized in real estate, tourism, renewable energy. We see also active sector like the hospitality. We see as well the healthcare business is something that we will be interested in. We also believe UAE has been here for about 10 years almost in the market. We have companies whom we met and keep meeting them. Overall, they are satisfied about the operation. We have met them yesterday, and we have agreed that we will be continuously coming back and engage with the business community of Georgia. We have the airlines business is doing very well. We have the retail business doing very well. The mall, we have the hotel business is active. The logistics is active. The retail business is active. And we are seeing there's big potential. So far, we have minimum, we had about $1 billion of UAE investment in Georgia. We think this number is small, can be increased, given that there is the right framework, the right legislations, and I think there are appetites for the Georgian market. It's very important for us to be here today. Overall, usually when foreign investor comes in a new market, they would like to see facilities. They need, because they are exporting capital, they are exporting hard currency. So they want to see as minimum as possible the risk. The risk, there are two types of risk. Regulatory risk. Second is market risk. We understand the market. The regulatory is where you need to be careful about. The more transparencies, the more sharing, the more partnership spirit in the dealing. And I think UAE, through our visit, this is critically important. Historically, time-wise, it's very, very important, especially the government. I think they are working together now to announce something very important to us, which is the Comprehensive Partnership Agreement. This is very important. And I think this is will be for history to record, because we see Georgia as open, liberalized, and they are active to partner with UAE, and UAE is active to partner with Georgia. We are taking this comprehensive partnership, economic partnership agreement extremely serious, and I hope we see the benefit of these agreements down the road, and I am very optimistic about this visit.
I am presenting DAPI Group in Georgia. We are the investors, I think first investors from United Arab Emirates in this area. We are owner of Biltmore and Terra Bank, and we are planning to bump and inject a lot of investments in the near future. We are very happy that economy in Georgia are very growing. Last year was 10%, which is amazing. All around countries was not coming to this target, but we are happy here to see that our lari coming more stronger and stronger from 3.4 to 2.5. It is amazing. And the situation here is very stable from all aspects, economically and political, and we are enjoying our investments here. It is very safe. We are studying some projects. Some of them are relating to the ports, as you said before, and other projects related to agriculture and oil industry. We are still under studying of all of these proposals, and we will come to decisions very soon, but mostly it is very positive.
Right now, Lulu Group, we are selling a lot of Georgian product like fruits and vegetables, FMCG, then caviars, waters. Now these products are getting much popular in UAE market, and I think this is a good opportunity for Georgia to explore to the Gulf countries. Georgian products are equal to the quality of Europe products, and it's a good opportunity. You know, in Europe the products are getting expensive, and due to the issues, a lot of issues which is happening, logistic issues and also. So this is a good opportunity. This business forum gives you a good opportunity to Georgian products to explore in the Gulf countries, especially in UAE.
More on this week's economic news and outlook from the checkpoints.
Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili met EU delegation head to Georgia Pavel Hertsinski and ambassadors of the EU member states. Steps that are taken by Georgia to receive the status of an EU candidate country have been reviewed at the meeting. The discussion was related to 12 recommendations defined for the country and delivered by the Parliament and the government of Georgia. Also, reforms successfully implemented by the government and the progress achieved on the EU integration path were summarized at the meeting. The report published by European Commission was discussed as well. It was highlighted that the report reflects Georgia's progress. Irakli Garibashvili shared information with ambassadors about the steps intended by the government of Georgia to be taken before October, as this is the month when the report is expected to be released by European Commission, with recommendations to the EU Council on granting the EU candidate status. Georgi Amilakhvari replaced Mikhail Chkhenkeli as the Minister of Education of Georgia. Georgi Amilakhvari was nominated as the Minister of Education and Science by the Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Garibashvili. Until now, Amilakhvari held the position of Chairman of the Education and Science Committee of the Parliament, while Mikhail Chkhenkeli was appointed as the Minister of Education and Science in November 2019. It should be noted that Mikhail Chkhenkeli held the post of Minister of Education earlier too, in 2017, but only for 8 months. Tbilisi Court of Appeals upheld the decision of the Court of First Instance in the case of the accusation against the former Minister of Defense David Kezerashvili and ordered him to pay €5 million in damage to the Ministry of Defense. In the case of the so-called drills, Kezerashvili was accused of misappropriating a large amount of money belonging to the state using his official status. Alexandru Ninua, the former head of the State Procurement Department of the Ministry of Defense, was accused in the case along with him. The panel of judges of the second instance in the Ninua part upheld the appeal. Accordingly, the Ministry of Defense was ordered to pay 5,000 lari in favor of Alexandru Ninua in the account of the state duty paid by Ninua for the appeal. According to the lawyer of David Kezerashvili, Georgi Mshoniyeradze, legal proceedings against the former defense minister were started in order to create problems for the TV company Formula, the founder of which is David Kezerashvili. Minister of Health Zura Bazarashvili links speculations about his resignation to his reforms which are being carried out in the pharmaceutical and clinical sector. To the journalist's question whether it is true that Zura Bazarashvili will take the place of the Minister of Finance and Tea Tsulukiani or his deputy Ilya Hudushauri will replace him, the Minister of Health answers that he will bring the reforms to the end. Big reforms that we have started in the healthcare system, both in terms of regulating the pharmaceutical market and the clinical sector, of course, cause speculations about my resignation. One of you asked the Prime Minister the same question and he did not confirm it. We will definitely bring all the reforms aimed at well-being of our population to the end, said Zura Bazarashvili. Georgian Health Ministry on Thursday reported unscrupulous actions from some pharmaceutical companies after the reference pricing system for medicines was introduced. Deeming it unacceptable, the Ministry of Health said some companies artificially increased the oncological drug prices. According to the preliminary findings, there may be an unscrupulous deal between pharmaceutical companies that significantly harms citizens and the state, which covers oncology patient treatment, the ministry states. The National Competition Agency is about to probe into the case, the ministry said, adding it would take strict action against any violations. Tbilisi City Hall is working on an application, Fix Tbilisi, where citizens will be able to post information about infrastructural problems in the capital. Tbilisi Mayor Kakakaladze said at the meeting of municipal government. According to him, citizens will provide information to the municipalities through the mentioned application without calling the hotline. Fix Tbilisi is a special application that every citizen will have access to. It will be a means of communication between the municipality and the citizen, the purpose of which is to provide the municipality with information about infrastructural problems in the capital so that the citizen does not have to call the hotline. The information will be more complete and municipality will be able to more easily identify the problem, said Kakakaladze. According to him, the application will initially combine information on damage to road infrastructure, trees and plants, outdoor lighting and park infrastructure. The third stage of the taxi reform will go into effect on April 1. The Mayor Kakakaladze announced on Wednesday at Tbilisi municipality government meeting, adding that the updated website www.taxi.tbilisi.go.g, where taxi licenses may be purchased and leased, will become operational on April 1. According to the mayor of Tbilisi, the municipality issued over 35,000 licenses. Kakakaladze further stated that the Category A taxi would be permitted to stop and pick up passengers from bus lanes across Tbilisi.
We are officially starting taking action for building the Anaklia port. This is what the Prime Minister keeps repeating from time to time, mainly at the executive government meetings. According to the head of government of Georgia, 51% will belong to the state, while 49% will be tendered internationally. Nevertheless, the government will not wait until investors express their interest, and construction works will commence this year. Anaklia recently noted that roads and highways are actively constructed, airports extended, and other concepts developed. The government of Georgia cancelled the agreement with the Anaklia Development Consortium to build the Anaklia Deep Sea Port on January 9, 2020. The consortium currently runs the international arbitration case against the government of Georgia. We heard the Prime Minister saying that they will start building Anaklia. Is it realistic at all?
No, it's not realistic. It's not realistic for at least two reasons. Number one is to be the 51% equity owner in the Anaklia project requires mobilizing over $300 million of investment just for the first year. The Georgian government does not have $300 million in cash and credit resources to be the 51% shareholder of Anaklia. Number two, who's going to be the 49% shareholder? There is no reputable international investor that will come in as a minority shareholder under the control. Most of them don't want to do it under the control of any government, but much less one that has a very bad record in its dealing with foreign businesses such as the Georgian government. So it's completely impractical. What they have done is every project that has collapsed on their watch, Anaklia, Namakhwani, Khudoni, they say, we're going to build it ourselves, okay? And so they're going to spend a little money, they're going to send the bulldozers out, move around some dirt, maybe put in a pipe, just do a little bit before the elections in 2024 to show that they're doing something. That's all that they're capable of doing. This is not opinion. I mean, this is simply a matter of resources. And again, we point out this, that one of the major remaining obstacles to the Anaklia port moving forward under the Anaklia Development Consortium, on whose board I serve, was the fact that the international banks were asking for a loan repayment guarantee, which had been negotiated down to a level of about $150 million. A guarantee, not cash, but simply a conditional liability and a guarantee. The European Union was offered, willing, and still is, to put up 50 to 75 million of that money as long as the Georgian government would match it. Now think, you're in business, what a connection and integration that would have been with the European Union for the Georgian government to co-guarantee with the EU that project. And the other 50 to 75 million was to come from Badri Japaridze and Mamuka Khazaradze. The government was like, oh no, we can't have a conditional liability, which doesn't require them to put out one tetri. We can't have a conditional liability of 50 million as a guarantor of this project, even if it would integrate us into the European Union, and even if the European Union wants it. And here they're saying they're going to lay out 300 million in cash from the pension fund, from the Georgian Railway. They're going to basically liquidate the state's resources to invest into the Anaklia project. Well, then how are they going to build Namakhwani? But they don't have the money. So again, sadly, there's many times that you have to realize that they're lying and they're dishonest. And so when they say that, oh, we can't do a $50 million state guarantee, but we can throw $300 million of cash and credit into the Anaklia project from your pension fund, you have to realize that there's something dishonest going on there.
And the last point on this PMC research, I don't know if you have seen that, asked 60 economists, what do you think about this 51% stake that the state is taking.
I haven't seen that. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, and the result. This was in February, and 39% said they didn't know how to assess the decision. Positive and negative answers were equal. It was 17 and 17%, and only 11% assessed the decision as totally negative. Oh.
I think they need to spend more time learning about the Georgian government and economics. Because I can tell you, and it really ought to be obvious to anybody, the Georgian government cannot mobilize $300 million in investment resources to do what is even the first phase of the Anaklia project. They simply don't have it. When they were asked, where are you going to get the money, Minister Kvanchilashvili said something vague like, well, we have the Georgian Oil and Gas Company, we have the Georgian Railroad, so I mean, we have the pension fund. So what they're saying is, they're going to take, remember, a pension fund is supposed to be money that is kept safe for retirement. They're going to put pension fund money, cash, which I know doesn't add up to $300 million, but anyway, they're going to take people's pension, the money that they put them in, and put it into a risky and speculative investment. They call Anaklia a risky and speculative investment.
Non-bankable.
Non-bankable. That's their party line. That's what they're going to do with pension funds? That's outrageous. It's a joke. Okay, that's not going to happen. And what are they going to do? Mortgage the Georgian Railroad's assets in order to borrow the money? Wait a minute, the Georgian Railroad already has hundreds of millions of dollars worth of bondholders overseas. They're not going to allow the assets of Georgian Railroad to be mortgaged for the Anaklia project because they're the bondholders. They have priority in payment. The Georgian government does not have the resources. It isn't going to happen. You know, and not to mention, again, if you add it to all the other promises that they've made about building projects themselves, like Namakhwani or Kudoni, it tells you that it's absolutely impossible. So this is, I'm sorry to say, simply a joke. This is a joke that they're in on. But it is something that, again, where they're peddling propaganda to their voters that is absolutely false, and they assume that their voters are stupid. And that is one of the things about them, and one of the things that I very much do not agree with. I know Georgians, I know Georgian people in rural parts of this country. I talk to them, I know people around. My experience with the average Georgian is that they have a lot more common sense than most of the politicians, whether they're the ruling party or the opposition.
And we've seen them just recently in the streets making the ruling party pull out the
Exactly.
law.
Accomplishing something spontaneously that the political parties have failed to do for a long time. I hate to be so critical of the opposition political parties because, of course, they've performed an important role. They have been important critics of the government. There's a lot of smart and nice people in them, but unfortunately, they don't do very well at organizing the public and getting out and organizing voters. And that's the real gap in Georgian politics.
What has been new in business this week? Our reporter Natia Taktakishvili will provide this business week's news and outlook in the checkpoints.
LLC-ED Capital opened a new 4-star cozy loft hotel in Batumi in cooperation with Bank. The total cost of the project is 2 million lari, of which 1.5 million lari was provided by the bank. A 25-room hotel features a restaurant, a wine cellar, a lounge bar with terraces and a conference hall. The infrastructure is adapted for people with disabilities. The hotel has beautiful views on the city and the sea. Our hotel has a perfect location for guests. I would like to see many more similar projects implemented in our region to boost the tourism further, said Edisher Kakabadze, the owner of the hotel. According to Georgi Gabunia, commercial director of Bank, the bank actively supports development of the hotel industry in Batumi. As a result, the city will have another hotel. Anna Dolaberidze, co-founder of Georgian clothing and accessories sales platform Forbes, says the company is planning to create an authentication hub in Georgia. According to her, the new authentication hub will be launched from autumn. In addition, co-founder of Forbes notes that the platform will open a showroom in Baku, while the company will enter Armenian market as an online platform. The company also considers entering Bulgarian and Romanian markets. As Anna Beridze explains, that the biggest challenge for the company was the Russia-Ukraine war. As she notes, Forbes still remains in Ukraine, but they see that the population still lacks purchasing power. Forbes is the largest online clothing and accessories store in Georgia, launched in 2019. The platform has over 200,000 registered users from Georgia alone. Today, more than 800 designers and brands are presented on the platform. The Georgian coffee house Ertiqava is planning to open a processing plant and a training center in one space in Tbilisi. In an interview with Forbes Georgia, the founders of company Ksenia Markovskaya and Tanya Merzla note that the first branch of the coffee house Ertiqava was opened in Mestia in 2017. The partners started business by investing $10,000 USD in the mountainous region of Georgia. According to Ertiqava, one flagship branch will be added to the chain this year, which will combine a coffee roasting plant and a staff training center. The project, worth of $1 million USD, is planned to be implemented in Tbilisi, and it will be located on 1,000 square meters. The total production capacity of the coffee roasting plant will be over 20 tons per month. Georgian company Malenta, which produces vegan jelly sauces, is planning to export. The founder of the company, Mari Kvernadze, spoke about this in an interview with BM.G. Malenta has been operating on the market for 6-8 months and offers customers jelly sauces made on the basis of vegetables and fruits. Speaking about the future plans, Mari Kvernadze notes that the company plans to expand the product range from the summer, and berry jelly sauces will be added to their product line. The company produces over 5,000 canned vegan sauces per month. The company employs 5 people. Products are sold on the platforms as well as Goodwill and Agro Boutique Farm. Georgi Sekhniadze, the founder of tea producing company Usharo, said that the company had to increase the product price by 20% because the labor force as well as packaging materials and transportation became more expensive. Georgi Sekhniadze also spoke about the challenges and noted that the sales decreased compared to the previous year due to the lack of state festivals in recent years. As for the future plans, the company plans to add vodka flavored with various herbs and gems. Tushati's small family production Usharo appeared in 2016 and offers customers 5 types of tea, 3 types of German spices. The price of branded tea amounts to 12 lari. Usharo also owns an agro cafe in Tushati where guests are served tea, gems and various spices. The Georgian accessories brand Ninutsa, which creates various jewelry from natural stones, materials, river and ocean cultured pearls and natural leather, plans to open its own sales spaces. Speaking about the future plans of the brand, its founder and designer Ninutsa Davlyanidze told BM.G that it's planned to reopen the stands closed during the pandemic. As she notes, the brand is working completely online and makes deliveries or offers customers takeaway services from their workshop. According to her, Georgia is not the only market where Ninutsa accessories are sold. As she notes, their products are already presented in one of famous salons in Brooklyn, New York, as well as in Azerbaijan and Russia. The price of jewelry starts from 35 lari and reaches 300 lari. Georgian brand Kirke, a manufacturer of soaps and cosmetics, is planning to expand the enterprise. Its founder, Nana Tavkhelidze, spoke about the company's future plans with BMG. According to her, she is looking for a grant to expand the enterprise located on 20 square meters. As Nana Tavkhelidze notes, she won a grant of 20,000 lari from Enterprise Georgia and opened current plant. As for the exports, according to the founder, it's very difficult to sell handmade soaps abroad because there are no special laboratories in Georgia which will make certification of the products. Kirke products are sold online, Facebook page, The price of handmade soaps ranges from 15 lari to 20 lari, and the maximum price of cosmetics and personal care products amounts to 60 lari. The Georgian company Mulin, a manufacturer of silk scarves, is working on setting up sales spaces. Its founder, Kvanchilashvili, talks about the brand's future plans with BMW. According to the founder, Mulin plans to increase exports in 2023 as there is a high demand for Georgian-themed scarves from foreigners. As Kvanchilashvili notes, their scarves are already exported to the USA and France. Mulin employs 4 or 5 people at this stage and produces over 1,000 pieces of scarves per month. Tekla Talakwadze, marketing manager company Sandomi, said the company product price increased by 8% due to the expensive raw materials. The head of marketing also talks about the competition from imported sweets in the market. According to her, despite that the volume of imported products has decreased recently, local enterprises still find it difficult to compete. Imported goods don't always mean high quality. They are both high quality and low quality products on the market, the price of which is quite low. So it's very difficult for us to compete with them, said Tekla Talakwadze.
Nick Beresford, a development professional with over 20 years of experience with the United Nations, was appointed as UNDP resident representative in Georgia in September 2021. Before, he served in Cambodia, Bangladesh, Somalia, and East Timor, as well as in the UN headquarters in New York, USA. Beresford holds a Master of Science in Development Economics from Sussex University. He also holds degrees in Audit and Accountancy and English Literature. Nick Beresford visited BMG last week in the program Zertili, or the Full Stop. The checkpoints would like to highlight 2 main points from the interview. First, since it's already 30 years that UNDP has been present in Georgia, what are some of the main results achieved during this period?
UNDP is one of the larger UN agencies in the country. We spend about $30 million a year on development programs in Georgia. In the past 5 years, that's gone up. That's doubled the amount that we've been investing in development here. If I look at the UN as a whole, we spend around about $60 million per annum. We've been here for 30 years now, since the restoration of independence, and we'll have our 30th anniversary year this year. And in that total time, we spent more than $350 million. That's in nominal terms. If I was to calculate it, taking into account of inflation, that would be, of course, a much higher figure. But I wanted to also, just if I may, add on to that, to look at the total amount of development investment in Georgia. And if we look at it, the amount of investment per capita, the amount of investment per person in the country, it's more than $200. And that puts Georgia in the top 10 receiving countries of the world, if we exclude the small island states. So that's a very high level of development expenditure. It's nearly $0.8 billion. And that was in 2021 about 4.4% of GDP. So my point is that level of expenditure is actually quite significant and quite large. And I think 2 other things that need to be borne in mind when we think about the development expenditure is that, first of all, it's not spent evenly. It's spent with a focus on the poorest. It's spent on the focus with the people most in need, particularly the grant money that comes through UN and UNDP. And the second point I wanted to make also was that we do that in partnership. It's very much working closely with our government partners, closely with our ministries, but also very closely with civil society organizations, local NGOs. Georgia is blessed by having a very effective and dynamic civil society ecosystem. It has many very effective local NGOs, and when we're working with government and we're working with CSOs, this is how we do our work when it's at its most effective.
And second, what does Georgia need for its development?
Georgia's had a very open economy. Georgia's had also an economy very focused on exports. It's got the deep and comprehensive trade agreement with Europe. It's taken good advantage of that. And so I think on that side, it's well positioned. I would then focus on how do we take advantage of that growing level of trade, that growing economy, but also how do all Georgian people benefit from it? So the question for me is not just about the economic growth and the rate, which is important, of course, but it's about the distribution and the inclusion. You know, and I think, you know, we've got a lot of social protection programs. We have about 177,000 people in programs. Those are very important because they help take people just above the poverty line. But they're less effective in getting people to carry on progressing up to, for example, a comfortable middle-class level of prosperity. And there, I think you need deeper investments in health and education. And that will make us more attractive for investments because increasingly companies, and particularly service companies, and particularly companies in new technologies, they're looking for a higher and higher level of skill. This is always going to be where they're looking for. We're very competitive on salaries and wages, although the Larry is very high, but maybe it'll come down a little bit. But we're still very competitive there. So I think the most important thing then is making sure our labour force, and particularly our young entrants to the labour force, have given the opportunities on education and given the opportunities of skills and training. And that is what the firms need. And that's what's going to make us more competitive. It's not just the level of education and the investment that's important. Although it is important, if I look at the level of investment in education at the moment, it's about 4%, 4.1%. The European average is about 5%. It doesn't sound a big difference, 1%, but it makes a big difference. And in fact, I think we should be investing more, but also it's the quality. If you look at the PISA scores, this is a score of educational attainment that's used around the world. There are 78 countries in this, and we rank about 70th. So it's very low. You know, the quality aspects, I think, particularly in our public sector, need to be addressed more effectively. That is going to be, that's a long-term investment, but that's absolutely necessary, I think, for making those people coming into the labour force more skilled. It means the companies then have access to that labour force, and that makes us more competitive and more productive. And those investments in human development, those investments in people are absolutely key, I think, to making the economy well shared, everybody prospers, but more dynamic, larger and more competitive.
And that's all for today. We will meet next Sunday, 11 a.m. sharp. Before that, follow us on Forbes.g and BM.g for more business and economics updates. See you soon.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.